Alright guys, before we hop into today's episode, we gotta check out this quick little clip from the Iron Lords podcast. I'm over on Twitter, my buddy Ham Solo took this clip from the Iron Lords podcast, and before we even check it out, I'm gonna say up front, watch the Iron Lords podcast, guys. Every Sunday, this past Sunday, they had a great discussion about the PlayStation Showcase. They had a bunch of people on to talk about it. Every single Sunday, they're having great discussions about gaming. It's worth checking out. You guys should definitely be checking it out, all right? But before we hop into the video, let's check out this clip.
Who cares if a game's exclusive or not? I don't know why people are so obsessed with this.
That's
There
a
were
big
30,
thing.
there were 34 games. There were 34 games that, like I said,
I'm with you on that. But
people
here's
are
the
like,
thing.
"Oh, who cares about Marathon if it's going to be on Xbox? Who cares about Assassin's Creed Mirage? Who cares about Alan Wake 2? Who cares about Dragon's Dogma 2?" I don't really care who makes it. I don't understand what this obsession is where the game only matters if it comes from first or second party.
Okay, guys, you heard it here first. Exclusives don't matter. So, let's talk about it. And guys, I want to say up front, this is no shot at Colin Moriarty or his opinion, okay? Colin Moriarty is very successful. He's allowed to have whatever opinion he wants to have about gaming. It's not a big deal. The only thing is, I disagree with the opinion. And it's not just Colin who's said this. I mean, I've heard this numerous times from tons of different people since the PlayStation Showcase. I've heard this exact sentiment. Now, I'm going to debate why I think that is kind of just a load of BS. And here's the thing, he isn't inherently wrong here. In fact, he's actually correct. Exclusives shouldn't be the be-all, end-all of gaming. But here's the really unfortunate truth for PlayStation. They spent the better part of last generation, the PS4 generation, cultivating a fan base that expects this from them. That is what is expected of them. As someone who is invested in the PlayStation ecosystem, like I say this all the time, I prefer the Xbox ecosystem. I primarily play my games on Xbox. I have a PS5, I have a PS3, I had a PS4 when it was still going, I had a PS2, I had a PS1. I love PlayStation. I just happen to prefer Xbox. But I am fully invested in the PlayStation ecosystem. And do you know why I'm invested in the PlayStation ecosystem? It's not so I can play Alan Wake 2 on my PlayStation. I'm happy for anybody who wants to play Alan Wake 2 on their PlayStation. Tons of people will. In fact, it'll likely sell more on PlayStation than it does on Xbox. That's just the fact. But here's another fact. I don't give a shit. And it seems like a lot of other people don't give a shit either, because we came into the PlayStation Showcase expecting to see PlayStation stuff. You gave us 4 things, one of which had gameplay, Spider-Man 2. You got Bungie's new IP, or a revival of Marathon, and then you've got Concord from Firewalk Studios and Fair Games from Haven Studios. That's 4 things. 2 of those things we don't even know when they're coming. We don't even have like a release window for Marathon or Fair Games. We know 2024 for Concord, and we have fall 2023 for Spider-Man 2. And guys, that's not taking anything away from the third party from this showcase. I'm not trying to take anything away from Morals of Avium, from Ghost Runner 2, from Metal Gear Solid Remake, from Alan Wake 2, from Assassin's Creed Mirage, from Teardown. I'm not trying to take away from any of that stuff. That stuff is exciting. I'm excited to see more about that stuff. But as someone who has invested into the PlayStation ecosystem specifically for their exclusives, because they make high quality, top tier exclusives, as someone who has invested into the platform for that reason, this show gave me absolutely nothing. All this show really did was say, hey, here's a bunch of games that you're probably going to be playing on Xbox. And you know what? Thank you. I'm happy. I'm ecstatic. I'm ecstatic to learn more about these games that I'll be playing on my preferred platform. But as for my PlayStation, what do I have to be excited for? Spider-Man 2? I already knew about that. I was already excited. You didn't have to sell me on it. I was already there day one. You don't gotta sell me on that anymore. What else? What comes after Spider-Man 2? What is Sony Santa Monica working on? Cory Barlog's been working on a game since 2019. We didn't even get a logo for it. We don't even have concept art for the thing. And speaking of concept art, we saw some concept art last year at Jeff Keighley's Summer Games Fest for Last of Us Factions, and I'm actually looking forward to this game. I didn't play the first Factions. I was looking forward to get in on this one. I've been looking for something to play multiplayer on my PS5. I was expecting Factions to launch, not 2023, but maybe 2024, early mid 2024. I was expecting that. We didn't see it at the show, and then after the show, we learned that hey, it's a very real possibility that this game might be canceled. It's about as canceled as a game can be without officially being canceled. I mean, from all reports, from Jason Schreier over at Bloomberg, we've heard that people have been taken off of that project and a ton of people have been placed on Naughty Dog's next single-player project. Now that's fantastic. I'm excited to learn more about that project as well, but what does this mean for Last of Us Factions? Like, that doesn't sound good. I mean, for example, guys, what is Ben's studio working on? We all know they got pulled off of Days Gone 2. They wanted to do a Days Gone 2. Sony said, nope, you're not doing that. You got to do something new. We know they're working on a new IP. This all was reported like 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, like early to mid 2021. We all found out that, hey, there's no more Days Gone 2. They're working on a new IP. What is it? Can we get even a logo for it? Just a mention of it? Some concept art? Anything. This is the PlayStation Showcase. What about Bluepoint Games? They released Demon Souls Remake in 2020. Anything. Some concept art for what they're working on. A logo. Anything at all. What about Sucker Punch Productions? I think we can all just safely assume they're working on Ghost of Tsushima 2, so I think that's a given. But again, it would have been one of those show-stopping things to see just a logo for Ghost of Tsushima 2. That would have been fantastic. We saw nothing. Nothing like that. And here's another thing that I've seen is a lot of people who are pushing back on this sentiment that the show was bad are saying, well, what about Xbox's show? I bet you Xbox's show is going to have tons of third-party stuff there too. Yeah, it will. Here's the thing. Xbox's show will mostly be third-party. I'm willing to bet you that. Here's the difference, though, between Xbox's show and PlayStation's show when they show third-party. When PlayStation shows me Metal Gear Solid Remake, I'm almost certainly not getting that in PlayStation Plus. Now, if Xbox shows me like how they showed me Plague Tale Requiem a few years ago, that launches into Game Pass. You see what I'm saying? Like, the third-party games that Xbox shows, like 90 to 95% of those are launching into Game Pass. Obviously, you got the exceptions. Diablo 4, they have marketing for, that's not launching into Game Pass. I mean, if it was, it would have been announced by now. So they have games that don't launch into Game Pass, but for the most part, everything they show is going to launch into Game Pass. So whenever I see a third-party game at Xbox's showcase, even if it's not for me, it's for somebody. And somebody watching it is thinking, hey, that's a game I don't gotta buy. I can play it in Game Pass, and if I enjoy it, I will support it. I will buy it on my own time. Now, if I see a game that I like at Xbox's show that's third party, I can relax. I can be like, hey, that's $60, $70. I ain't got to worry about it. I can pick it up on sale at a later date, but I can play it in Game Pass first. That's exciting to me. There's a reason for them to show that at their showcase because it's going into their service. I mean, what do we really think the odds are that Metal Gear Solid, Immortals of Avium, Ghost Runner 2, Alan Wake 2, Assassin's Creed Mirage, Teardown, what are we thinking the odds are, Marathon, what are we thinking the odds are that any of that goes into PlayStation Plus day one? I'm not willing to bet on any of it. And guess what? Some of those, like Immortals of Avium, if that was going into PS Plus, now's the time to say it because it launches in July. So you're not far off from the launch of that. Now's the time to tell people it's going into PS Plus unless you're waiting till the very last moment so you can get those pre-orders in. But guys, my point really is that this whole argument that, it shouldn't always be about exclusives or it's not just about exclusives, it's disingenuous. Because when you say that, you're not wrong. You're absolutely not wrong. Like I said before, you're not wrong when you say that. And like I said, it's not just Colin who said this. It's tons of people who have said this. I've had friends who have said this. It's tons of people. But it's a disingenuous argument. The showcase was the PlayStation Showcase. It wasn't a third-party state of play. It wasn't Summer Games Fest. It was the PlayStation Showcase. PlayStation set the bar here, and this showcase landed about right here. Way under it. I mean, guys, you even have like hardcore PlayStation fanboys who any other time I wouldn't pay attention to because usually they're just making excuses for PlayStation. It's the same thing for Xbox fanboys. They just make excuses for the platform. They pat them on the back when they do something good, but then whenever they mess up, they make excuses for them. They fight for them. They go to war for them. I don't get that stuff. But even these hardcore PlayStation fanboys after this showcase were saying, dude, that was unacceptable. So when you sit there and say, well, it's not always about exclusives, well, you're right. But at the same time, the last 8 years, we haven't been hearing, well, it's not always about exclusives. I mean, when PlayStation was cranking out hit after hit after hit after hit during the PS4 generation, it was all about exclusives. When Xbox was down bad, putting out inactive year after inactive year after bad game after broken game after inactive year, it's always about exclusives. But suddenly when PlayStation doesn't have exclusives, it's not always about exclusives. Guys, you got to keep the same energy. And guess what? I don't say this to dunk on PlayStation. I say this because I want better from PlayStation. Genuinely, that's another thing. There's so many people on Twitter who criticize both platforms. PlayStation people criticize Xbox. Xbox people criticize PlayStation because they want better. They demand better from them. No, they don't. They want to see them fail. That is what a lot of these people want to see. That's not what I'm doing here. I expect better from PlayStation. I am invested in the PlayStation ecosystem. I want them to make my investment worth it. That's all I'm asking for. And that's really all I've got to say on this topic, guys. But I want to hear from you guys down in the comments below. Leave a comment below. Let me know how you feel about this whole opinion, about this whole thought process going around. Let me know which side of the fence you fall on. Leave a comment down below. Let me know all that. Leave a like if you like the video. And if you're enjoying this kind of content and you want to stay up to date with it going forward over here on the channel, the best way to do that is consider subscribing, consider ringing that notification bell, because that helps you stay up to date with everything that happens here on the channel, and it helps push the videos out to more people, helps promote me in the algorithm, and I very much appreciate that. And with that being said, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.